Joining us now is Kate Zernike, national correspondent with the New York Times. So dare I ask this big question, Kate, is either of them, McCain or Obama, taking responsibility for what went wrong? And I know that's big for a politician to do, to take responsibility, it seems, these days. But are either of them taking responsibility on the failure of this bailout?
No, absolutely not. I think they would have taken credit had it passed.
Absolutely.
But I think McCain was prepared to take credit yesterday morning when it looked like it would pass. But absolutely not. I mean, I think they're both now staying away and blaming, as you just saw with McCain, blaming Congress and not, or the other side.
And what do you think John McCain can do now? You know, when you talk to advisors in his campaign, they say over the last 2 weeks, since his financial crisis blew up, he's been dropping in the polls. It's been an undertow pulling down his campaign. Now with the failure of this rescue package, the story just gets prolonged. And you have on top of that the fact that he tried to resolve it legislatively and failed. Right. What do you think he does now?
Well, I think he just continues. I think he continues to point the blame at the Democrats, as the Republicans in Congress did yesterday, and he points the blame. He puts the blame on Congress and not himself. I mean, I think the trouble for him is he took this big gamble last week and went back to Washington, and said he was taking charge, and then initially took credit when it looked like it was going to pass. So now what does he do? You're right. I mean, he sort of got to back out a bit.
It's interesting, Kate. He was in an interview this morning, Senator McCain, and he said, "Let's not call it a bailout. Let's call it a rescue." How does that, as a strategy, play out, or does that even matter?
Well, I think it's obviously just semantic, but on the other hand, rescue does imply the danger involved.
Right. Nothing is said for, just to be saying it these days. We know that there's a motive behind it.
Right, absolutely. But I think bailout implies,
it's what Americans don't want to hear.
Exactly, it's what Americans don't want to hear. Whereas rescue implies, we're in this together. We've got to do something. We're saving someone. It's a good
saving
Samaritan.
You Main Street.
Yes, exactly. We're saving you Main Street, and we saw what happened in the markets yesterday, down 78 points. I mean, it's just a huge drop. So I think that's another question: is what happens with the markets, and how does McCain respond to that?
Well, speaking of that drop, how does this backdrop affect this vice presidential debate? You've been covering Sarah Palin. She's been on the defensive anyway because of these interviews that haven't gone very well. How does this change the task that she brings into that debate with Joe Biden?
Well, I think it makes it harder. I mean, look, she was already facing a big challenge on foreign policy. She overstepped and said something beyond what John McCain has said on Pakistan the other day. So I think that this just adds another challenge to her. Now she's got to be informed and flexible in the way she talks about the economy, and able to really be sort of, as I said, flexible and fast on her feet when she talks about that.
A lot of pressure on a politician still very young and new to the national stage.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Kate, thanks so much for joining us.